if you forgot.
Perfect. So we're recording. I'll repeat what I just said. We have here today with us, with me, Dr. Karen Dow, our undergraduate programs associate dean, also our student services coordinator, Heather Nicholson. Together, we work in the student services umbrella for undergraduate students. So I think we'll give it a start now. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get on with the presentation. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen. Great. Welcome everybody. So this afternoon, I'll be providing you with an overview of the registration process for direct entry students to the Price Faculty of Engineering. After this presentation, you should feel better equipped to take on the challenge of course registration using U of M's systems. Because I'll be providing a lot of information and it can be overwhelming to remember it all, I'll be recording and posting this presentation online this week so that you can watch it again as many times as you like. You can use this as a guide and know that I'm here to help you directly or to point you to resources if you need. We'll take some breaks during the presentation to answer your questions, and I'll let you know when those breaks will be so that you can type into the chat function for us to moderate your questions. So let's get started with some introductions. My name is Jennifer Mitchell, and I am the Preliminary Program Student Advisor in the Price Faculty of Engineering. I'll be your advisor for the duration of your preliminary studies, and I'll be checking in with you from time to time throughout the year. It's important to me to create a safe and welcoming environment in which to offer you the support you need and to point you toward the resources available to you as a student at the University of Manitoba. I'll be your main point of contact if you're not sure who to ask. You can start by emailing our Eng info inbox and we'll help to triage your questions. I'll also introduce Heather Nicholson, our Student Services Coordinator in the Price Faculty of Engineering. Heather oversees the role and the function of the staff in the Support Services Office, including me, as well as the coordination of the activities of each of the engineering department's student advisors. Essentially, we go to Heather for advising support and mentorship, and she's the link between the advisors and Dr. Dow, the Associate Dean for undergraduate programs in the faculty. Heather and I and the Student Services team are committed to ensuring that you receive the supports you need to achieve academic success and personal growth as you begin your career. So you may be wondering what it is exactly that we do in Student Services Office. The staff in our office are here to help you with mainly first-year engineering student inquiries, such as course registration and any issues that may arise, deferred exam coordination for all the students in the faculty, information about awards, such as bursaries and scholarships. We also provide guidance, and we can direct students to supports for mental health resources, accommodation for learning differences, tutoring, and other academic supports. When in doubt, email or visit our offices. Our offices are open Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and you can book advising appointments through email. I'm in the process of setting up an online booking calendar, so you can book times with me for in-person or remote meetings during my office hours. You can find our offices in room 262 in the E2 Engineering Building, which is down the hall from the Dean's office on the main floor. Before I move on to the more technical content, I'd like to discuss the direct entry student category. I've had a few students ask me to explain the difference or the benefit to being admitted in this category of student versus a student who's transferring into our faculty, perhaps after a year in another faculty or school. So direct entry students have applied and are admitted to the Price Faculty of Engineering directly from high school. And in high school, you've earned a minimum 80% average in English, physics, chemistry, and pre-calculus. Direct entry allows you to fast forward to join us in the Price Faculty of Engineering student community, and you'll benefit from priority access to registration in courses and eligibility for engineering entrance awards. Direct entry students should aim to spend only 1 year in the preliminary year program, with the focus being on the completion of the preliminary courses. So during that year, the expectation will be for preliminary program students to apply for admission to a department program for year 2 to continue the remainder of your degree requirements. While I spoke to some of the benefits of direct entry on the last slide, it's also important to consider some other unique qualities of students in this category. You've most likely never registered in university level courses before. You're probably younger than other students who've transferred in from other faculties or schools. You may not have visited our campus previously. You'll likely need more support from your advisors, from your family and friends, and you should ask lots of questions and ask for help early. If you aren't sure who to ask, you can defer to our office or to the university's Virtual Advising Help Center. I'll tell you more about that resource later in the presentation. So let's start here. There are 3 main components to successful course registration. Today, I'll go over what you need to know about each of these so that you get from 1 to 3 successfully. Number 1 is course selection. This step is determining which courses to take. It's important to understand your program requirements. Number 2 is scheduling. In this step, you'll create a timetable to make sure those courses fit a schedule without any conflicts. And third is registration. In this final step, you'll navigate the online system to make sure your courses are added to the student account. Your level of frustration with this step is going to be directly correlated to your preparation levels in steps 1 and 2. Make sure you're prepared before you register. In the preliminary program, students will complete courses primarily from first-year math, science, and general engineering department courses. So to understand how courses are coded at the University of Manitoba, let's take a look at the basics on how you identify these course codes. Each course at the U of M is identified by a course number. The course number has 2 parts, letters and numbers. For example, Chem 1100 is the course Intro Chemistry 1. The 4 letters, or Chem, identify the department, and the 4 numbers identify that this is a 1000 level or first year course. So Chem 1100 is a first year course in the Department of Chemistry. Some of the departments that you'll also see are Math for Mathematics and Eng for General Engineering courses. In addition to a specific course code, you'll see that courses are further identified by a section. To accommodate large numbers of students who want to take a course, it could be split into 2 or more sections. In this case, you'll see that Math 1510 shows 2 separate sections, A01 and A02. Both of these sections offer the same course content, but you'll see in this example, A01 is offered from 8:30 to 9:20, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in room 100 Fletcher Argue Building. And the other section, A02, is offered from 1 to 2:15 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and will likely have a different instructor. You'll also notice that some courses include lab and/or tutorial sections. The same concept applies to labs. You'll see in this example, Math 1510 shows 3 separate lab sections. These are coded as BO. So the lectures are AO and the labs are BO sections. So in this section, you'll see 8:30 a.m. for the same time in all 3 sections, but with different locations on campus and obviously 3 different instructors, unless that person has figured out how to clone themselves. It's important to note that for courses that indicate a lab section, it's mandatory that students register in both the lecture section and 1 lab section. You may also notice that some lecture sections include lab and/or tutorial sections altogether. In this example, you'll see that the course ENG 1430, Design and Engineering, section A01, has a lecture from 1:30 to 2:20, as well as a mandatory tutorial section on Mondays from 2:30 to 5:15. When you register in section A01, both the lecture and the tutorial meeting times will be added. Keep in mind that the scheduling of courses and sections is determined by the department offering the course and not by the preliminary program. In this example, students registering for Math 1510, section A01, will register in a lab section, one of these, B01, B02, O3, or O4, and this is required by the department. Now that you have a better idea of how to interpret course information, let's go over the courses you'll be required to take in your preliminary year. Direct entry students must successfully complete at least 8 of the 13 preliminary courses so that they'll be eligible to apply for admission to an engineering department for year 2. The preliminary year courses are listed on the right side of the page. These 13 courses are required by all students admitted to the faculty. Your focus will be to complete all 13 courses before you begin your 3rd year in engineering, but at least 8 must be completed in your preliminary year. Most of these courses can be taken in any order. However, there are a few things you need to note about the courses I've marked with the red stars. I'll explain more about these in the next slide. So reviewing departmental preferences and sample timetables will help to guide your course selection. Each departmental program has listed their course selection recommendations online. These are referred to as the preferred 8. Providing this information will help to ensure that you have the appropriate prerequisites to ultimately register in higher level courses after the preliminary year. While you're not required to follow this guidance, it's a great option, especially if you know which department you want to apply for year 2. It's absolutely okay to be unsure which department you're interested in at this point. That's what the first year is for. Another recommendation is to use our pre-planned sample timetables, which are posted on our website. We've taken the guesswork out of planning your schedules by providing several options to suit your preferences that also meet program requirements. There are several options with various combinations of the 13 preliminary courses that are listed on our program webpage. The links to both the timetable plans and the preferred 8 are also included in this slide. Most students plan for an average of 5 courses per term. You'll need to strike a balance between taking a healthy course load and to be able to meet the program expectations, but not overloading yourself so that you end up failing or dropping too many courses. You should consider that 6 courses per term is the expectation to complete a degree in the 4-year model. 5 courses per term is an average, and 4 courses per term should really be the minimum, especially in your preliminary year when you're seeking to meet the eligibility threshold of the 8 past courses. The minimum course load to be considered a full-time student at U of M is 9 credit hours, or 3 courses in each term. But that's pretty low for most engineering students. Departmental program models are based on students taking 6 courses per term, so that's something to consider when you're planning your schedule. Lastly, you should consider external requirements. So external factors might influence the number of courses a student takes in a term. Some scholarships or financial aid, such as provincial or federal student loans programs, will require a minimum credit hour load per term to remain eligible. Most require full-time course loads in all terms. You'll need to review your scholarship terms of reference. Some will require students to complete a minimum number of credit hours in a calendar year or to maintain a specific GPA standing. In the last slide, I highlighted these 4 courses as they have critical characteristics that impact your course planning and your registration. So the first one to note is the course Chem 1122. It is a requirement. However, it is excluded from the count when we're ranking you in the 5 engineering programs. It's not a full course, but it's a lab section that matches with Chem 1100 lectures. So it's recommended to take Chem 1100 and 1122 in the same term. It's not a requirement, but is a recommendation. Another thing to note is that you should register in Math 1510 or 1500 before registering for Physics 1050. You will receive a prerequisite error message if you try to register for Physics 1050 first. For the written English course requirement, you can choose from quite a large list of approved courses for engineering students, and you can find those on our webpage. Lastly, Phil 1290 is the recommended but not required course for complementary studies. Students can choose an alternate course from the faculties of arts or from the Asper School of Management at the 1000 level or in first year courses, except for Arts 1110, which is Intro to University and is not to be held for credit in the Price Faculty of Engineering. Something else to note is that some of the math courses may refer to alternatives. For example, Math 1500 or 1700 can be substituted in for the preferred Math 1510 or 1710. The Math 10 courses are the recommended options since they offer more applied topics and are generally more suitable for engineering students. This is especially important when you're considering your future years of studies. So taking these recommended courses right from the start will help to best prepare you for the higher level courses. To understand the three-step registration process, you'll have to understand the system that's used to facilitate it and how to navigate. Aurora is an information system where all the magic happens. Logging in is the only way to check your active registration, your fees, and your grades. The university will not send out letters or email with this information. Aurora is also available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Over the next few slides, I'll run through a few screenshots that will quickly show you how to log into your Aurora account if you haven't done this before. I've added links to certain information throughout the presentation as well, so you can review this on your own later. You'll start with the U of M homepage and you'll click on Current Students. On this webpage, you'll notice it's a great bookmark for future reference. It shows useful online tools for students, and you'll find Aurora right in the middle of the page. This is the Aurora login homepage. You'll note that if something is indicated in a green font on a page, generally it contains a link to further information. Do not lose or forget your Aurora PIN, as you'll need it to access your confidential student information. If you get locked out, you'll use the contact information on this or the previous page to regain access. You're in, now what? If you log in correctly, you'll see a screen just like this one. This is actually my login screen, and as an advisor, I have a few extra tabs and features, but generally this is the type of screen you'll see. This will be your main menu and the navigation hub for all of the information stored in your account. You'll note that under each of the green links, there's some helpful information as to what you can find within that topic. The university will show you repeated reminders to set up, use, and please check your email account. It is a thing. You should set up your My U Manitoba email account and begin using it before you register in courses. Since we want to look up a course or see the class schedule, we'll click on Registration and Exams. In the Registration and Exams page, you'll see two orange links that offer help on using Aurora and tutorials on registration. These are very useful, and you can go back to click on these anytime you're not sure how to proceed. It's a good idea to bookmark these links for future reference. A lot of information will pop up when you search using this screen. I won't tell you this information isn't useful, but depending on your mission, in this case, we simply want to look up a course. All we need to select is the term in which we want to search or the term in which we want to take a course. So in this case, we're going to select Fall 2022. Remember, the courses are coded by department. So the subject here will correspond to the course's 4-letter department code. If we're looking up Math 1510, we'd select Mathematics as the code. Our search is going to show us all the math department courses that will be offered in our selected term. You can see our Math 1510 course in the search, meaning that it is offered in the Fall 2022 term. You can then click on the View Sections button on the right to show more detail for that particular course. Again, lots of information. Aurora can kind of be like your grandma offering you more and more helpings at Sunday dinner. If she's going to give you way more than you need, but remember, it does come from a place of love. In this case, let's focus on the important parts. We can see two sections, A01 and A02 of the course Math 1510, as well as one lab section, B01. I'd like to bring your attention to the highlighted SR indicator to the left of the page. In this spot, you may also commonly see an open checkbox or a code to indicate the registration status. So an open checkbox would indicate that the course is open to add, good to go, no restrictions apply to you, so click away. In this example though, we see a code of SR or student restriction. This means that I'm not allowed to register in that course at this time because of my student status. It could be because I'm an inactive student, or it could also mean that I have a hold on my account, either academic due to requirements or administrative. I just haven't paid that darn parking ticket. The area in the red oval explains that space in this course is reserved for engineering students. So if I'm not an engineering student, I'll be prohibited from registering until the course reserve comes off for my student type. You may also see a C, which stands for closed section, meaning the course is full and no further registration can be added. Or you might see NR, which means no registration. That code may be displayed if you're trying to register in a course too early before the system will allow, or too late after the course registration is closed for the term. What does this all mean? When you search for a course in Aurora, you'll need to understand and interpret the results of your search. You'll see several important indicators. Let's go over these. You'll see a section number. We learned that lectures are coded starting with an A. This course has a section number of A01. You'll also see a course code. We learned how courses are coded in the system. Math 1510 is our course code. CRN, or course reference number. This number is unique to each section of a course, whether lecture or lab. Every single course section for every course at U of M has its own CRN. For this course, you can see the CRN is 10457. The course name, this screen shows the full course name, in this case, Applied Calculus 1. You might see a section comment indicating student restrictions, or sometimes the date and time for the midterm exam. In this case, you can see the course is restricted to engineering students until August 10th at 9 a.m. and that the midterm is scheduled for November 17th at 5:30 p.m. Attributes are characteristics of a course, and in this case, it's a Faculty of Science course and recommended intro course. Each course will show a green View Catalog Entry link. This will bring you to a more detailed information for the course. We'll review this on the next slide. Another indication on the screen will be the course's meeting time. For this course, you'll note it's offered from 8:30 to 9:20 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. That's what MWF means. And TR means Tuesdays and Thursdays, if you see that code. The location of the course may be indicated. Usually this is marked TBA until closer to the start of the term, as well as the assigned instructor. And you may see a little envelope next to the instructor's name, and that will allow you to email them. They probably won't respond quickly in the summer though. When we click on the View Catalog Entry green heading from the last slide, we'll get more details on the course. This is the main highlight, and it will be used to offer you more insight as to topics covered in the course, and will indicate any pre or co-requisites that you might need. What if I need help? Where do I go and what do I do? If you're struggling with any part of the registration process, the Virtual Advising Help Center is like a help button and a great resource to start with. You can chat one-on-one with a student service navigator from Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on weekends from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. They can walk you through one-on-one any snags you're experiencing, and they are the experts on Aurora registration. Speaking of questions, let's stop here and we'll take some about the first part of the presentation. So you can type these into the chat function and Heather will moderate.
Maybe nobody has questions.
Yeah, I was going to say that too.
Are there
Oh,
any
here we go.
questions?
How do we know when we're allowed to choose our courses?
That's a really good question. We're just going to come up to that topic in the next part of the presentation. So I'll go over it in the next part. And if you still have questions, I can answer more of them for you when we're finished.
And then we have, can I take a lab before a lecture?
It's not ideal to do that. Most lectures are going to be linked to a lab. So when you register for your lecture, you'll be forced to select a lab section with it. The only one that's separate in from my knowledge is the chemistry courses, and they are a little bit more complicated, but you shouldn't be selecting or registering in a lab section before you've taken the lecture part. So for chemistry 1110, you'll take that lab section, you'll need to register in it first, and you'll take the lab section either in the same term or a term right after.
Yeah, the lecture is quite often where you learn how to do everything that you'll practice in the lab. So you kind of don't want to jump ahead of yourself. And then our last question that's popped up says, hi there, can I register for a course that doesn't say some space reserved for Faculty of Engineering students?
Yes, if it's a course that's on your list of the preliminary courses, those are really the only ones you should be looking at for your first year. And generally, you're right, in general, if it doesn't have a restriction and you have the prerequisites, then it's free to register in.
And that looks, oh.
Any more questions?
How can I know which courses to choose for the fall term?
So if you look at our sample timetables, they'll give you an idea of which courses you want to register for in fall and winter. A lot of these courses are offered in both terms. We'll take a look at how to look up a course and that kind of thing, but you'll want to look those up in Aurora so that you can see which terms they're offered in, and that will determine your schedule.
And there's a follow-up question, which I think you answered as well in that explanation, Jen. They're just asking, is there a magic recommendation on how to spread the preliminary courses out, as in take these the first semester, then those in the next one? And I think the timetables that we've put up on the website, the sample timetables, are a really good way to have a look at that and figure that out.
Right. We'll talk a little bit more about that as well in the presentation, but Heather's right. So you'll try and have a nice balance in both terms, but in terms of knowing what to take, those sample timetables are really going to be helpful. They'll take a lot of the guesswork out of when to take courses and how to spread them out over your schedule. They are available on our website right now too.
How would I register for Eng courses in the summer if I wanted to do extra courses after the first year?
So you can register in the summer. The summer terms have quite a limited selection for courses, so you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket, I'll say. There's not a lot of options. Also, the summer term courses aren't going to count for ranking into a department for year 2. So you need to make sure you're completing at least 8 courses in the fall and the winter terms, because we won't count the summer courses to rank you.
And then we have a question about the sample timetables. They are stating that the sample timetables on the website are saying that they're 2021. Are there new ones for 2022? As the person responsible for those, I have to apologize. The ones posted are in fact 2022 timetables. It just looks like we missed it updating the date somewhere.
They're updated now, I think.
They're updated now, Heather.
Yeah. Are they?
Fine. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right now, if they wanted to go back and look, that was something
that
we
just
did
update them. Yeah, we just got them updated. So if you go and look back now, they should be updated to 2022.
They are. I checked the website.
I had a panic attack.
There's seven for the fall and 7 for the winter. So there's plenty of options for you, and you should be able to find something that works for you in one of those. At least it's a good starting point.
We're being asked, did you say 8 courses per term?
No, that's really, don't do that.
That's far too many.
6 per term is what you're looking at, what our programs are kind of based on. 5 per term is recommended, and 4 per term is kind of the minimum. Again, I'll go over more of this later, so you'll get more information on the actual course selection.
So we have 2 more questions that are posted, and I think at this point we'll answer these 2 and then we'll hold the rest until our next break for questions.
Okay.
So Kieran is asking if I've been offered admission in fall and want to defer to winter, that is January 2023, does that affect my choices on course selection?
So yes, as far as I know, you can defer for 1 term, but 1 term only. And you will have to register for your courses for winter term this summer. So when your registration date and time is available to you, you will register even if you're not taking courses in the fall. Your course selections will be limited then to those courses that are offered in the winter term.
And I think just to emphasize, Kieran, it's really important that you register at your date and time this summer, even though you're not planning to start your courses until winter term, because those will fill up because everybody's going to be registering for fall and winter right now. So those winter term courses will be full if you waited. So if you waited, then yes, it absolutely will affect your choices because you're stuck with what's left over. And then Chloe's asking if I've already done AP Calculus, AB, and scored a 5 on the exam, would it be recommended to use the credit or to take calculus again? Do you want to answer that, Jen, or do you want me to?
I could try and answer that. So I would say admissions would determine whether that's a course that can transfer in and how it meets any of our prerequisite or preliminary courses. So if it does transfer in, you will see in your transfer account in Aurora that it's a match and for which course. And if it does, we'll select that and bring that in. Anything else to add, Heather?
Honestly, I think if you're going to get the transfer credit for it to come in and it comes in at the equivalent of a C or better, it depends on your confidence level at that point. We certainly don't need you to retake it. But if you feel you need to do it over to get a better background in it, then you can do so at your will, if that helps.
Makes sense.
All right.
Okay.
So I will pause the questions here and then we'll head back to it once we come to the next break.
That sounds good. We'll keep going. I'm going to have to figure out how to share my screen again. Sorry. Lost my center view here. There we go. Can everyone see that? Hopefully. Okay. Those were great questions, everybody. So let's move on to some of the information that might answer some more of your questions. Now that you have a better understanding of Aurora, we just talked about that, we'll determine, and you've determined which courses you want to take in your preliminary year, you'll use the online or the printed timetable form to plan both your fall and your winter terms. It's a good practice to plan for multiple scenarios since your first choice in a lecture or lab section may not always be available, and that can create a bit of a domino effect leading to multiple timetable conflicts. As we just saw, looking up classes in Aurora will show you specific information, such as what terms, days, and times a course is offered, a course reference number, and how many sections are offered, the course capacity, and more. Sometimes planning a conflict-free schedule can be difficult, and you may feel you need an engineering degree simply to manage this step. But having several planned options for course schedules in advance, such as our sample timetables, they can be helpful in case you need to move to a plan B option on your registration date or if something doesn't go as planned. To understand how to build your schedule, it's important to know that at U of M, courses are offered on session and term systems. It's expected you'll complete most of your preliminary courses in the regular session, which runs from September through till April. The regular session has 2 terms, the fall term and the winter term. Courses offered in the fall term will have their final exams in December, and those offered in winter term will have their final exams in April. In the Price Faculty of Engineering, there are very few courses that are spanned, meaning they run from September through April, and those won't apply to you. So what are some tips to set yourself up for success in the fall? Successful students will spend an average of 3 to 4 hours outside of class for every 1 hour spent in class. The fall term will help you to gauge the effort that you need to put in for each course each day. You might find that some courses need more effort and others need less. Successful students also find time every day to review and study all of their courses. You should review your courses daily to keep on top of the work. It can be very overwhelming to try to catch up on coursework if you fall too far behind, and this can cause you added stress. Successful students also don't wait until midterm exams and final exams to begin studying. Cramming is not a path to success. If you're reviewing your courses daily, you'll feel better prepared as you approach the midterms and the final exams. Lastly, successful students will set realistic goals and expectations. If you set smaller, more attainable goals so that you can feel like you're making progress along the way, you'll be more successful. Consistency and realistic expectations will help you to succeed. Consider completing a tool like the 168-hour worksheet to demonstrate how much time you've left over after you add in your academic and your life commitments. So once a student has planned out their winning timetable, they should consider all the holes left in their schedule. This is an example of a time management worksheet with the different colors representing different requirements. So the areas in white are your planned lecture and your lab sections. Those should always go in first. The areas in green represent the time spent in academic non-lectures and labs, so studying, meeting for group projects. The areas in orange show your other commitments. It might be athletics or jobs or family commitments. And lastly, the blue section is going to represent your personal time. So you do need to eat and sleep and take breaks and transportation. This task is going to show you that you may need to sacrifice or adjust the plans that have worked in the past to accommodate your new routine. You should reevaluate this in each term as your schedule changes. You'll need to use a timetable planning form to map out your courses and to make sure there are no scheduling conflicts. You can plan out your own schedule, or you can use one of our 7 sample timetables for each term, which are now posted on the preliminary program website. Using those provides an easy way to make sure there are no conflicts in your schedule and that you're selecting the correct courses for the program. This is an example of one of our sample timetables for the fall. This one is actually fall 2021. We're going to pick on Poor Math 1510 Applied Calculus again. In this example, you'll note that it has a lecture section from 8:30 to 9:20 on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, as well as a lab section on Tuesdays at 8:30 to 9:20. This is the schedule for the entire term for that course. So in this option, you'll be spending 4 of 5 mornings bright and early with a large coffee and your buddies, integrals and functions. You should plan for 3 hours per week per course, plus 1 to 3 hours of lab time per week. Here are some scheduling tips to consider when you're creating your timetables. Balance is going to be key, so you'll try not to overload one term versus the other. Also, plan for breaks and other commitments so that you're not overextending your time. You'll be way more productive if you take care of yourself too. Courses with fewer sections will have limited options, so you can add those first since they're easier to schedule. It can be good to also have an alternate plan in the event that your preferred course is full. Again, our sample timetables will do the work for you. Keeping separate schedules for fall and winter is key, so you'll be registering in both terms in the summer, not just for the fall term. And lastly, if any courses in your timetable overlap, the system will not allow you to add these during registration. Timetabling is going to help show you any errors before you try to register so that you can fix these before your registration date. You've selected your courses, you've created a conflict-free schedule, and now it's time to register. The first step is going to be to view your registration access time in Aurora. Each student at U of M will be assigned a specific registration date and time for fall 2022 and winter 2023 academic sessions. Your registration times for fall 22 and winter 23 will be available in Aurora beginning Friday, July 8th, so tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Registration is going to open as early as Monday, July 11th, so you need to make sure you've checked your date in Aurora before that day. Each student needs to register on their assigned date and time to ensure space in their preferred courses. To prepare for your registration, you can rewatch this presentation. You can visit the First Year Center website for information, videos, and tutorials on how to process your course registration. And the virtual advising help desk is also a valuable resource that's available to you. Let's quickly review how to check your registration time in Aurora starting tomorrow. You're going to start by logging into Aurora, and then from the main menu, you'll select enrollment and academic records. Remember, under each heading is information that's covered in each category. In step 2, you select registration and exams. Step 3, select registration time and status. This date is going to be the same for both the fall and winter sessions, so there's no need to check for each term. So you'll select the term that you want to register and you'll click submit. Number 5, you'll note your registration date and time. Set an alarm, tattoo it on your wrist, tell your mom. Let's face it, that might be the most reliable reminder. Registering in courses on your set date and time will ensure maximum levels of success in securing the courses that top your list and work best with your preferred schedule. If you miss your date and time, don't panic. You can log in and register when you remember, and you'll have access to the system until the deadline to add a course for that particular term. Okay, let's stop here again. That was a lot of information for scheduling, and we'll take more questions about course scheduling.
It feels like we're taking a course. Can we select one of these sample timetables that suit our department of interest for 2022? So are you asking about one of the timetables that suits the preferred 8 that you're looking for to get into the specific department? Yes, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you can find one that matches the preferred 8 for what you want to do for the department that you go into, absolutely. That's kind of our hope. That's why we put them together that way. They don't all necessarily do that specifically, like we haven't specified which one's better for mechanical versus which one's better for civil, but it's pretty easy to figure out. And then what are the requirements for laptops?
There aren't really any specific requirements, so it's better to have a newer one if possible. But for engineering, there's not a ton of software that you're going to be uploading onto your computer. So there's nothing very, very specific that is required other than a good functioning computer with a good internet connection and, that kind of thing.
What is the difference between the July 8th date and the July 11th date for registration?
So July 8th is really your date that you're going to find out when you get to register. So July 8th at 9 a.m. Or some point during that day, you'll log into Aurora and it will tell you when you can register. It will likely be next week. So July 11th is the earliest that you could register. That's when Bison athletes typically will register and advanced entry students. But generally next week, you'll be registering in your courses. Tomorrow you find out the exact day.
If I do 5 courses per term, then will they choose my best 8 for the ranking?
Exactly, yes.
And then for the timetable form again, where can we find the interactive forms where we can plug in our courses and see where they fit and if there are conflicts? I guess asking if you can make your own.
Yeah, you can essentially, if you're on the University of Manitoba website, you can search for timetable planning form, and there are different versions of this, which include the form fillable ones that you can fill in. The university timetable schedules are the same for pretty much every faculty, so they match the same setup as the timetable schedules that we've prepared.
You can also, a good place to look is the first year planning guide. As newly admitted students, you're probably getting a lot of emails from the first year center. So the first year planning guide is a great resource, and they've got the fillable forms in there. What determines how early I can register?
Your student status generally will determine. In your first year, you're all kind of getting the newbie status for registration, and you get to register quite early in the registration process. It opens on July 11th. Like I said, really only bison athletes and a few other very selected categories of students will register on the 11th. But your registration will start as soon as the next day, and it will be in the first week generally. When you're a returning student, that might change.
I'm just going to add a little bit to that. So for first year students, your registration date is given out according to your student number. I believe it's the last 3 digits, but it might be the last 4. Don't quote me on that. So if you have friends that are also registering for the program and you're wondering, why am I going on Tuesday and my friend's not going till Friday? That's why. Also, something to think about for next year, registration after you've registered for the first time is given out based on your GPA. So the higher the GPA, the first access you get to registration. So the high, like say you had a 4.5, you'd go first, and then it goes down from there. So you'd be able to get better access to classes the higher your grades are. So a little bit of motivation there for you, perhaps. So the next question is, tomorrow we just see when our registration time is, and then once we figure out our courses, then on the 11th we can fully register.
So not quite. On the 8th, you're right. You will find out your registration date and time. On the 11th is when registration starts for the general student population, but you are going to be assigned a specific date and time. You'll find that out on the 8th, and it will tell you when your registration date is, likely next week at some point.
Will 15-minute breaks be hard to reach other classes, and should I look at the places and make them closer to each other?
Generally 15 minutes is enough time, especially once you get to know the campus quite well. The tunnel systems can take you a little bit longer sometimes, but if it's -40 out, then that's a really good option. Hopefully by the time winter rolls around, you'll have a really good idea of where you're going. So I guess long answer short, yes, 15 minutes should be enough time for you to get between classes.
And considering where your classes are that you're going to be registering in, you're most likely going to spend either most of your time in the engineering complex, or you're going to be over in the science buildings, which is, we're pretty close together. So it's not too bad of a trek. And then, is registration in person or online?
Online. Everything is online pretty much, except your courses will be in person. So that's great.
We seem to have hit a natural pause here. We'll give it another second or two, but that looks
We're going to talk about registration next too. So if there are any questions about that, I might be answering them in the next part of our presentation.
So for international students, how does the course selection affect them, since the admission offered depends on the predicted grades? So as long as there are, sometimes international students do have issues registering just because we need to have your high school grades entered in as part of the prerequisites. So for instance, if you're registering for chemistry, you need to have a prerequisite grade for your high school grades, or your A levels in this case need to be in the system. So you may encounter errors saying that you don't have the proper prerequisites for courses. If that's the case, then you can contact Jen here in the office and we can try and follow up. We may have to refer you to the admissions office to see what we can do, because those grades might not be there. And then the last question that popped up, are all of these sample timetables thinking of 5 courses per term?
I think they're all set up for 6 courses a term. And again, it's better to register for more and have to remove one than to not register for enough and try and add them. So you can look at those sample timetables just as that, as samples. And if you would prefer to take 5 in each term, you could just delete one of those courses from the timetable.
Okay, and I think I'm just going to cut off the questions at that point. If you have more that you want to ask, by all means, type into the chat and we'll get to them next time, or I'll respond in the chat while Jen keeps going.
Okay, sounds good. Those again were good questions. We'll move on to the next section. Okay, everybody, let's do this. This is your registration day process. So on your registration day and time, you'll follow a process to add the courses to your fall 2022 and winter 2023 timetables. Before the registration, I highly recommend watching one of the registration tutorial videos. They're really informative and they go more in depth on the entire process. But for now, I'll walk you through the steps. You'll always start off at the Aurora main menu after logging in. So you'll first select enrollment and academic records. Next, you'll select registration and exams. And then you'll select add or drop courses. Again, note those 2 orange help boxes at the top of the list. Once you've registered fully in fall 2022 courses, you'll come back and you'll select winter 2023 and do it all over again for that term until all of your courses have been added. So you'll enter your CRN or look up your classes. Remember when we looked up a course, we saw that each one had its own course reference number. So you can add these into the worksheet to look up courses if you don't know their CRNs. If you type in a CRN, you can click submit changes and process your course registration right from here. You can select add or drop a course and then type in the course reference number. Up to 10 separate lecture and lab sections per term can be added at one time. This would allow you to register for multiple courses at once. I do caution though that this isn't always the best method for seeing the course capacity and more details. So it's a great feature if you're making a small change after the bulk of your registration is added, but I'll show you a way that's probably preferred. The other way to register in a course is by following that course search or the lookup screen to bring up your course information like we did in the previous slides when we were searching for the course Math 1510. Generally, you should see an open checkbox in which you can click to add the course. After you've clicked the checkbox on the course you want to add, you would click register and the course would be added. Or you can click add to worksheet and you can search for more courses, then add them all at once. If you see any of the codes that we reviewed earlier, SR, NR, or C, those are going to indicate that you will not be able to add that particular course section. So if a course is full, it may offer you the option to add yourself to a wait list. Now, being on a wait list does not guarantee space. If you add a wait list for a course, you'll be able to see your place in line. And not all waitlisted students will secure a space in courses or labs. Being waitlisted for a course is not the same as being registered in a course. You're not guaranteed space just because you're on the wait list. You must have an active email account to receive waitlist notifications. So you'll need to check your email at least daily if you're on a wait list. These notifications are going to be time sensitive. You'll register within 24 hours of being notified or you'll lose your spot. After, you'll receive a time-sensitive email notification to your email inbox if space in a course section becomes available. If you're not registering in the course during the 24-hour window of time, you'll lose your spot and you'll have to add yourself back on the list at the end of the line. We cannot help you if you lose your spot. You'll have to add yourself back and restart. I recommend that you watch the tutorial video on waitlists indicated at the link here before you register in courses so that you know how to proceed if you want to add yourself on a course's waitlist. The bottom line is waitlists are great, but they shouldn't be your only backup plan, and there's no guarantee that a space will become available to you. If you add a course using the worksheet or by looking up a course, you'll ultimately see your course registration in the same way. When the system processes your request, it will immediately show all the successfully registered courses, followed by an explanation of those that could not be added and then the reason. So you'll see in the red oval that the status is marked as registered. If you were waitlisted for a course, you would see waitlist in this status area, and the credit hours would show as 0 to indicate that you do not hold a spot in the course. Also, anytime you make a change to your registration, such as switching a lab section or a lecture section, you'll see the status updated to the date that you made the most recent changes. What if you want to make some changes to your schedule? So after your assigned date and time, you'll have access to the registration system until the end of the fall and winter registration revision periods. So the final day to add a course for fall 2022 term is September 20th. The final day to drop a course for fall 2022 without academic or financial penalty is September 2021. That means that you can drop a course and you will not receive a failing grade, and the university will credit your tuition fees for that course back to your tuition account. The final day to add a course for winter 2023 is January 20th, and the final day to drop for that term is January 23rd. Something to note, I've noted the Chemistry 1122 lab section course. It has an irregular drop date. It's a short course that runs for 6 weeks during the term, so the deadline to drop that one will not follow the regular schedule. If you're planning to register in that course this year, make sure you know those dates. You should also note the important dates and deadlines I've highlighted here. You'll add these to your calendars now. It's your responsibility to keep track of these and to initiate any changes. Now that you've registered in courses, what's next? Here are some important considerations for July and August that will help you to make the first week of classes a little bit less daunting. You'll want to check Aurora to make sure your planned out timetable matches your actual registration. You can check sections and note any updated information. You can also log into Aurora and you should check your fees, confirm your payment options and the deadlines. Dropping or adding a course can affect your fees. So anytime you make changes to your registration, check your fee statement for any updates. Also, some auxiliary fees, such as the sport and fitness fee or other service fees, might be assessed later in August. So make sure to check your fee account a few times before the term fee deadlines to catch any late additions. If you have outstanding fees, you could be put on hold and incur late fee penalties. You can also order your student ID card online and set up and test out your email account. You can feel free to send me a test email. will only be communicating with students from their email inboxes moving forward for privacy concerns. There is no rush to run out and purchase textbooks. The textbook lists may not be available until the first day of classes, so it's recommended to wait for the course syllabus from the instructor, as books are expensive and may not be mandatory. Be careful if borrowing and buying older versions of a textbook or reading materials, since they may be missing information or the pages may not match for assignments. And visit our campus. Visit your campus to locate classrooms, labs, support and service offices, plan your transportation route and your parking options. You can also save the date for one of our next big events is Prep Week. Prep Week will run the week of August 29th to September 2nd. It will give you an opportunity to discover people, places, and information you need to know, and it will introduce you to ways to connect to your new U of M community. You can meet your fellow classmates and connect with other students on campus who have similar interests to you. You can develop skills and habits related to academic writing, time management, and maintaining wellness. You'll be able to join U of M profs for a sample lecture, and you'll hear from the Price Faculty of Engineering about the resources, supports, and opportunities available to you. Remember, after all this, we're here to help you. So small problems can become bigger if they're not addressed early. The sooner you ask questions, the easier it may be for us to help you. You can also contact the Virtual Advising Help Center, which is an excellent resource. So I would encourage you to bookmark that page for future reference. Advisors and the Student Services Office are here to help you if you're not sure who to ask or where to go. I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, but email is important to manage daily. Instructors, advisors, students, and other administrative and service units on campus will email only to your My Manitoba email address. Do not miss out on important dates and deadlines. I'll be sending a weekly e-newsletter starting this summer that will outline upcoming important information pertaining to you. That's going to bring us to the end of the presentation, so I'm happy to take more questions now.
Okay, so we've got, is the email account on Outlook?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so as students here, you get Microsoft 365 accounts, so you'll have access to things like Word and Excel and PowerPoint, and as part of that, you'll also have Outlook as an option to manage your email. If I register courses for fall and pay the fees, but later have to defer to winter, what should I do in that case?
So if you're registering in courses, there's several different dates by which you can drop a course without academic or financial penalty. So I did let you know about the one date, the drop date in the fall, which is about 3 weeks into the term. You can drop courses. The university will credit the tuition fees for those courses back to your tuition fee account, and the courses will simply just go away from your transcript. After that date, from mid-September until about mid-November, you can withdraw from courses, but it will be called voluntary withdrawal. So you can still drop the courses and you won't have an academic penalty. You won't fail the courses, but the university will keep your tuition fees for those courses. So it's something to consider moving forward.
And also, if you do drop them in time and get the credit on your account for the fall term, that will roll forward and you can be used towards your winter term fees, which wouldn't be due until the first week of February anyway. So you'd have that credit on your account. Where can we find the CRN for the course?
So if you go back in this presentation, when you're looking up a course, one of the details in the course will be your course reference number. So it's a 5-digit number. I think it's 5 digits.
You want to go back to that slide, Jen?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that one for you. Let me pull it up.
And while you do that, I'll answer the student's next question. When do we pay the fees? So the fee deadline, I don't know it. It's in October. It's the
5th.
first October 5th is the fee deadline. So you have to pay by October the 5th. But anytime after the middle of August is a good time to pay. I mean, feel free to pay sooner, but just make sure you check in and make sure that no other fees have been added after the middle of August.
I have that screen ready if you would like to go back to that CRN number.
Yep.
I'll share that one with you. I don't know if that worked.
So yeah, CRNs are found in the course, in the title of the course when you look them up on Aurora. So it'll be in that first line, usually after the name of the course.
Sorry, guys.
We can see your screen, Jen.
We can see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you just have to talk to it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so so the CRN is in that kind of bright blue color, and it's right after the course name on the page. So it will say Applied Calculus 1, and then it will show the 5-digit number 10457. That's usually where you'll find the CRN number for each course when you're looking them up.
Okay, who do I speak to about accommodations?
Sorry. So there, you can speak to us first if you're not sure. We can help you in terms of if it's accommodations for like student accessibility services, can make help students make accommodations for exam writing. And if you have other things that you need accommodation for, we can refer you to the appropriate offices to get that set up. That's something you'd want to do at the start of the term. And we do have a departmental committee that meets to help to ensure that we're meeting those requirements for students as well.
So just sort of further explanation about the accommodations, if you are a student that's had accommodations in high school, you will likely need them going into university. I know I've encountered a lot of students that really struggle their first few weeks and say, well, I don't understand. I used to have an EA and I used to have extra time for tests and I used to have all flexible deadlines and all of that stuff. But now all of a sudden I can't do it. Well, it's because those still come with you. So Student Accessibility Services is who you'd register with to get all of those accommodations that you're used to. If you search them on the U of M homepage, there's an intake process that you have to go through. There's some forms that you have to fill out and some forms that your doctor has to fill out to account for your needs. I would suggest starting that fairly soon. They are actually currently scheduling their intake appointments for the fall term now. But those forms are up on the website. If you can't find them, just shoot us an email and we'll help you find them. So the next question is, if we wanted one-on-one help and tips with creating our schedule, would we be able to phone us? One of you guys, it says, but us.
Yeah, the first point of contact should be our eng.info email, or certainly the phone number. I'm happy to review schedules or give you some advice on building your schedule. That's not a problem.
So the next question is, the fall and winter sample timetables with matching numbers, are those supposed to go together, as in there's no repeat courses? So as I'm responsible for those, Jen, I'll just answer. So no, just because you took fall timetable number 1 doesn't mean you have to do winter timetable number 1. There actually is no repeat courses anyway across any of them. So if fall number 1 works really well for your schedule and winter number 5 works good for your schedule, then feel free to do that. There's no repeats. The next question is, how do I set up my UM email account?
So the U of M email account, you probably have received an email about this to your personal email, but you can go on, it's set up through IST, which is Information Services on campus, and you'll go in and set up your email. Again, if you search online on the U of M homepage, you can find out pretty much anything from entering in a search, but there are tutorials that will walk you through how to set that up. Again, I think the First Year Center website might be helpful in that case as well.
Do the UM entrance scholarships have restrictions on how many courses we must take?
I'm not entirely sure the answer of that question, but I would say that most of the scholarships would have a terms of reference that you could view, and they would let you know exactly what is required of a student when you're applying. It would mention that you need to be a full-time student or a type of course load you might need to take, as well as a GPA you might need to have earned or maintain.
That information is usually in your offer letter as well. They usually give you the details in your entrance scholarship about whether you need to be a full-time student or not. So the next question I have is, what is an example of a penalty? And just for some context, Jen, I think this popped in when you were talking about academic penalties and VWing by the deadline.
Okay, so academic penalty might mean that when I referred to it, if you're dropping a course after that first drop deadline, an academic penalty or not having an academic penalty would mean that you're not going to fail the course if you drop it. You will see a voluntary withdrawal or a VW next to the course, but in no way will that academically penalize you going forward. That's what I mean in terms of a penalty, I guess.
I think just to add on to that, if you wait until after the VW deadline passes, if you haven't dropped the course at that point, then you would end up with an F if you didn't finish the final exam.
Right.
If I want to complete my degree in 4 years, do I have to take all 13 courses in fall and winter term?
I would say yes. I mean, the models are based on 6 courses a term for those 4-year models. So that, from what I understand, is the best way to ensure you'll meet the 4-year kind of deadline that you have by taking 6 and 6.
Then we have a question. One of the engineering scholarship links is not working. Who do I speak with? I can address that as well, since it's part of what I'm working on. The scholarship links will be active as of July 15th. We'll put those up. So there's 2 links on the preliminary page for the first year scholarships. The Scott Saxberg, and then there's a technology one as well. So those will become active as of July 15th. So right now, if you click on the application, it just doesn't go anywhere. But you can get your stuff ready. You do need a reference letter and things like that. So you can get that prepared, and it will open July 15th and then close the end of July. So you'll have a few weeks to apply. The next question, when are the fees due for winter 2023?
They're due February, early February. I think it's also the 5th.
I'm noticing a lack of mentions of majors. Does any of that play a significant role into the scheduling?
You shouldn't really need to consider a major for your preliminary year. When you move to a department after the first year, then you can discuss with your advisor in that department and pursue a major if you want to. But in first year, your focus should be on those preliminary courses, and you don't have to worry about majors at that point.
Just to add to that, we actually don't have majors in the Price Faculty of Engineering. So I know you hear about these probably from your friends in science and in arts, but once you're in program, you might have options, you might have streams, you might have specializations, but we don't have majors because your major is the program that you are in.
The next question is, we have to register for 5 courses in the fall term and 5 in the winter.
I mean, you can, that's one of the options. As I mentioned in one of the slides when we talked about the course scheduling, 6 is kind of the recommended for each term to follow the 4-year model. 5 is average. So 5 would be what most students take on average in each term. And 4 would be really the minimum, because you're looking at completing 8 courses in each term. And we will rank you in those 8 after year 1. So if you did drop or fail one of those courses, if you're only taking 8, then that automatically kind of makes you ineligible to apply to the department for the second year. So 5 is kind of a nice balance between the ideal of 6 and the minimum of 4.
Does a student have to take specific courses to enter into a specific BSc program? So I think that's in reference to the preferred 8.
Right. So the preferred 8 are exactly that. They're preferred. All students will take the 13 regardless. So it doesn't really matter which order you take them in. For students who do know they want to go to mechanical or they want to go to biosystems, the departments do list their preferred, meaning that if you take those 8, that's a great start going into year 2. But even if you don't take the preferred and you decide you want to apply to biosystems, that's okay. You can still be admitted that way.
And then I think this is a follow-up question, because we were talking about entrance scholarships and scholarship restrictions. I imagine Sienna's looked at her letter. She's asking for what does it mean when the scholarship restriction says for a minimum course load of 24 credit hours over both terms?
So 24 credit hours is equal to about 8 courses. So each course is generally 3 credit hours. So if you split that up and you do that math, you'll see that you need to take at least 4 courses in each term to keep your eligibility for that award.
Do you offer any Eng courses in the summers? If so, which ones would you recommend taking after the first year?
I believe we do. This is my first year in this role, so I haven't been through a year of this yet. And I can't say I could offer a recommendation necessarily, but they are all intro to the different departments, with the one exception of the design course, which is kind of overarching all the departments. So if you're not sure which department you want to apply to, perhaps that's a good one. Or if you know which department you want to apply to, you could select one of those ones. I could defer to my colleagues for more information maybe on that one.
I don't know that there is any recommended courses for the summer term. If you wanted to take courses, there are some course offerings in the spring session for engineering, not very many though.
And then the next question is, can I take 10 classes in my first year and 12 in my second year? So I'm assuming a 5 and 5 split and a 6 and 6.
I would say yes. I'm the advisor for your first year. So if you've done 10 courses in year one and you're admitted to a department, I think probably the expectation will be to take probably 6 and 6 in your second year. But that's something you'll manage once you are admitted, and you'll kind of plan your courses with your advisor for year 2.
And we've hit a little bit of a pause in questions.
It's okay if you don't have questions right now. I know that was a lot of information for you. So I'm here all summer, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions by email, or if you want to set up an in-person or an online appointment, I'm here to do that too. I know, again, it's a lot of information, and you may not have a question until you have to actually do something, and that's okay too.
Oh, here we go. So the follow-up to taking 10 classes the first year and 12 in the second year is so I don't have to complete all preliminary courses in my first year.
No. So you need to complete at least 8 to be admitted to a department. You're going to have to complete all of the 13 courses, as will all engineering students, before the end of their degree, and ideally before year 3, they start year 3.
Can I view the recommended 8 real quick, or is there anywhere that these recommended 8 are always present? Should we just pop on the website? Do you want to show them?
Yes, I'll try and pull that up.
So I had sent out a link to everybody a little while ago to the sample timetables, the web link. That actually has the preferred 8 just above it. You have to scroll down on that link about halfway down the page, and then the preferred 8 are listed, and
there we go.
The sample timetables and everything are all in one. So here's the preferred 8.
I'll just show you the top of this website so you can kind of see where I came from. So from our U of M homepage, and then Price Faculty of Engineering, Programs of Study. And then if you scroll down our page, actually all of our preliminary information will be on this page. So you'll see your courses in this box here with any notes that might be applicable. You'll also see a bit of information for you with regard to the courses and our sample timetables. So here you'll see all those fall ones, all the winter ones. You can click on those for the PDFs. Your language courses, you'll see all of the ones that are approved. And then your preferred 8 are here. Again, these are recommended or preferred, but not required.
So we had a follow-up question about how many courses are ideal to take for our first year. I think while you were answering the above questions, you've really addressed that, Jen. And then we have a question about a tour. Can I take a tour of the engineering building? Will there be a tour at the beginning of fall term?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I'm available to give you a tour anytime if it's a time that works with us both. Otherwise, we'll be having several tours on campus from now until the start of classes and even further in. There are certain groups that are setting up tours that will be offered through different departments on campus. I believe the First Year Center, and there are different events coming up until September that offer campus tours.
So for anybody that's gotten an invitation to Ready to Roam on the 20th of July, there'll be an opportunity to take a tour at that point. And then anybody that's coming for the prep week, the August 29th to September 2nd, don't quote me on those dates, there'll also be an opportunity for tours at that point as well. But yeah, anytime you want, you can book something.
It's also part of NJO. So they do our University of Manitoba Engineering Student Society, UMES. They run an orientation on September 6th, and tours with buddy leaders with students are part of that orientation.
So the question is, the campus is open for us to walk around and find our classes all summer. Yes, absolutely. I recommend visiting campus during the week so you encounter less locked doors. A lot of staff are starting to return to campus over the summer when they're not on vacation. But if you're welcome to come on the weekend, but you do run into a few building closures because they tend to only open it when there's staff on campus.
Any more questions? Like I said, we're going to be posting this online for you, so you can watch it again and you can see the question and answers again. You can always email us, contact us. We're happy to answer your questions.
Does everyone require an English course?
Yes, written English is one of the requirements. On our website that I was showing you, there is a link to all of the approved English courses that you can take as part of your written English. So yes, there is one. You need to have at least 3 credit hours of written English.
And I should just add to, you need 3 credit hours of written English for any degree on any faculty on campus. It's not just us.
Okay, well, I think
I just got one more question. I am getting questions direct message, so you might not be seeing them.
Okay.
The question is, can we go for written English in our second year rather than the first? Just to answer that, because that's a quick question. You can. It's strongly recommended by the university that you get your written English finished within your first 60 credit hours. They also recommend that you get your math requirement done in the first 60 credit hours, but we don't really talk about that because you guys take so much math in your first year anyway. It doesn't matter. I got another message. In high school, there's credits. In university, there are credit hours. What's the difference? Usually there's one credit per course in high school, where credit hours, those talk more about the contact hours you have per week. So a nice way to think about it is, if you're in a 3 credit hour course, you're going to have 3 hours of contact with that class with your instructor per week. Maybe we can release those that don't have any more questions, Jen.
Sure. I think that's a great idea. So thank you again, everyone, for attending this session. We're really happy to answer your questions and offer you this information before you register. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to forward them my way, our way in the coming days. And we will post this online for you to view again. And yeah, it was great to have you here.
I've got a question. Where can we find the recording of this meeting? This will go up on our faculty YouTube page. So I'd suggest going to YouTube and following the Faculty of Engineering, and you should get a thingy notification. Hi. You'll get a notification when it gets added. It probably won't be added until early next week, just so you know.
You can probably stop recording, Jen.
Yeah, I'll do that.